All right. Welcome to Adirondack Bigfoot. Today, we have Jenny out of Raven Ranch in New Mexico. Is that right, Jenny?
Yep, in Raymond, New Mexico, Raven Ranch. Yes,
Hmm.
I have a group of ravens that live here and keep me very occupied and entertained.
All right. Well, I can't wait to learn more about that. So you reached out and you have had some Bigfoot experiences in the past, so we'll get into that. But you're
Okay.
originally from the Adirondacks, right?
Yes, that's where I grew up, right at the edge of the Adirondacks on Lake Champlain,
Mm-hmm.
first in Essex, New York, and then Westport. And I went to North Country Community College, Saranac Lake, and
Yeah.
spent many years in Lake Placid and Saranac Lake.
Great, great. I was just in Lake Placid today.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yes,
that's
yes.
great.
I was in Lake Placid today. I stayed the night, actually. I got there last night, spent the night, and then I went up to Dannemora this morning.
Oh my goodness. Oh
Yeah.
wow. Was it in search of our friend?
Yeah, and
Was
well, part of that, yeah, yep, because I spent some time yesterday in Newcomb, doing an investigation, and then I ended up spending the night in what did I just say?
Lake Placid?
Lake Placid. There's so
Yes.
many. There's so many. So then I ended up
I
spending the night
know.
in Lake Placid, which was awesome. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna take a look around here while I'm here. So two videos on the way. So more to come.
Oh,
More to
cool.
come. I
Oh, that's great.
gotta keep everybody in suspense, so they stay tuned.
You bet.
Um, Jenny, so why don't you take a couple minutes, just give us a little background on you, introduce yourself, share anything you'd like.
Okay.
Just let us get to know who you are and what you got going on.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm thrilled that you asked me to do this. I am originally, as I said, from way upstate New York.
Yeah.
Many times I say right below Montreal, Canada, because when
Mm-hmm.
you say New York, people automatically assume New York City.
Right.
But if you say right below Montreal, Canada, they go, wow,
Yeah.
didn't know New York is that big.
That's right.
But anyway, years ago, I was when I was going to North Country Community College, uh, a bunch of us, and I believe it was. I was trying to think. I'm pretty sure it was Memorial Day weekend.
Mm.
Um, we went camping right below Algonquin
Yep.
Mountain, which is right next to Mount Marcy,
Yep.
and in the middle of the night we had a tent and we were having a good time and everybody
Hmm.
was asleep and something grabbed our tent and shook it violently. I
Wow.
mean, this has haunted me for years.
Mm.
Um, and after it stopped, we unzipped the tent and went and there was no noise. There was no footsteps. I mean, and there were no rips in the tent. If it had been a bear,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, you know, there would have been rips. There was nothing. And we were all pretty mystified about it. And back then, I don't think I'd ever heard of Bigfoot or Sasquatch.
Right.
So, but it kind of came up over the years in my brain, just going, especially when we'd go camping out in Arizona.
Hmm.
And I think, wow, what was that? So, um, we bought the house and the land here 15 years ago. And we're right next to Pine Hill, which is Raymond Navajo reservation,
Okay.
6 miles away,
So wait, is
and
this
right
going to be,
next
hold
to
on, Jenny, hold on. Is this a different
yeah,
experience that you're going to share?
yes,
Oh,
I
oh,
I I
hold
went
hold
out
on, hold
to
on. Put the brakes. We want to
okay,
talk more about
got you.
the first one first. Um,
Okay,
so
good.
so you said what was the name of the mountain you were at camping?
Algonquin, and
Algonquin.
it's right next to Mount Marcy, which is
R
the highest peak in New York State.
right. So this is in Keene. This was in Keene.
No, right outside of Lake Placid.
Yeah. Well, Mount Marcy's in Keene, so it's got to be close.
Well,
Um,
it took us, I know, because we were in Saranac Lake, and it
yeah.
took us about 45 minutes to get to the base of where you park
Mm-hmm.
and walk in.
Yeah.
So that was where we were.
Oh, great. So that, yeah, so that area, there's a lot of encounters out there, just so you know, over
Oh,
the years.
interesting. I
Uh,
was wondering.
yeah, it's a hot spot. And it has the highest peaks of all of New York are right there in that
Yes,
area.
right.
So that I think there's a connection there, one way or the other, right? I think that there's something, some sort of connection to high peaks and Bigfoot. With that said, so you were with a group of friends and you all were just
Mm-hmm.
camping, or was it,
Mm-hmm.
or were you, was it the adventure to climb the mountain? What was the purpose of the trip?
We were going to some place where we could along a river, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember that, and it was quite a hike.
Yeah.
And I've climbed Algonquin, but in the middle of winter.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
really? Wow.
yeah, I took a winter mountaineering class at North Country, and we climbed it in January.
Wow.
But to me, it makes a lot of sense because the Adirondacks are ancient. They are the
Mm-hmm.
smallest compared to the Rockies, but
Right.
that's because they're the oldest.
Yes.
And I think that our friend, that Sasquatch or Bigfoot or Stone Giant or
Mm-hmm.
Wild Man,
Sure.
I I think that is a perfect place for them to be because it's so thick and very vast,
That's
and I
right.
think a lot
That's
of
right.
people don't realize that.
Yeah, that was the next point I was going to make because I just spent the
Okay.
last 2 days out there in
Yeah.
that area, right? So
So
um
cool.
a lot going on. Newcomb's right out in that. Oh, they're all right, real close to each other. So and so I have a drone. So I always put the drone up, take a look
Oh,
around.
nice.
I can see what's going on. So if you're like downtown Lake Placid, you're like, oh wow, this is nice, and they got a lot going on here. You put the drone
Yeah,
up and you take a look around, you're in the middle of mountains and there's nothing but woods.
that's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
so you think that you're okay, and it looks like a big place. It is super small, and it's wildlife rules the area there.
Yes.
So it's super interesting to really understand and paint that picture. So you had the so you and your group of friends, how many friends were out there with you?
I think there were five of us,
Oh, okay.
as I recall, around
Yeah.
five. And we just couldn't figure it out. And
Yeah.
oftentimes when I've read about what was the experience with the students in Russia, their tent, wasn't it in 58 or 59, right around 1960, they were out exploring,
Hmm.
and they were all found dead,
Oh no.
and their tent had been destroyed, and it
Hmm.
looked like in the middle of winter they had run out of the tent, and you know some tongues were torn out, things like that,
Hmm.
and they'd run out without shoes on. And it's still a hotly debated what happened. I mean, were they hallucinating? What happened? But Yeti tends to be very aggressive,
Yeah.
whereas my experience with Bigfoot has been the opposite.
Hmm.
They tend to want to know where your heart is.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
once they and my brother, I made a movie. My co-producer is from Many Farms near Chin Lee in a Navajo nation,
Hmm.
and Norman Patrick Brown. Um, he said, he said to me, they know you have a good heart.
Mm.
So once they know that, you know, that's all,
Yeah.
that's what matters.
That's good.
And yeah, so I think so anyway, that's
So I
another.
heard, yeah, I pre that's a lot, and I appreciate. And there's I always like to want to expand on some things and talk about some stuff, but um so I just was learning that most recently, there's been a huge uptick in Bigfoot sightings in Russia. So
Yeah.
it's really a hotspot for Bigfoot and Sasquatch right now. So that's interesting. So there's a lot of videos coming out of the area, and
Yeah,
who knows what's going on, but it's something to study. It's something to look into, you know.
you bet.
Um, Couple things. So your friend that you were just speaking of, who was that?
Norman Patrick Brown.
Yeah, Norman Patrick Brown. And he's a is he a native?
Yes, he's Diné,
Uh-huh.
Navajo, and
Navajo.
and he is a traditionalist. He in most Navajo, I think, all tribes deal with this differently
Sure.
because they've encountered the wild man, the hairy man,
Mm,
throughout their timeline, and they see him as a holy being,
mm,
and so you really shouldn't talk about him. You should just respect that
mm.
and treat him, the subject, as sacred. um and I there is no way I would ever tell anybody that they're wrong. you
Right.
know I
Yeah,
think everybody, based on their own experiences and their own events, have to come to a conclusion on their own
that's
for
right.
what happened. So
Hmm.
that's the way I look at that. But Norman
Yeah.
is, I'm adopted. When we made our movie, a documentary years ago, um the family adopted me, and I went through a whole day of ceremonies.
Hmm.
So he's my brother.
Great. That's great.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to him someday.
Yeah, I will send
Uh,
you, I will hook you guys up.
sure. Yeah. So back to the Adirondack incident. So a shaking
Yeah.
of the tent. So I've heard of Bigfoot and a lot. I've heard this a lot, and this has come up many, many of times. It's like a normal thing in conversation now, is that they're pranksters. So
Oh,
that,
interesting.
yeah, that kind of ties into, them shaking
Yeah.
your tent and then just sitting back. Who knows if they're in the background giggling or hanging from a tree? Who knows, but
Oh, wow.
yeah, so that's a possibility. I would think in that area, you were definitely in their air. You were in their home, right? You were in their area.
Yes. And there was
Uh,
no one else around us. And
mhm.
I think when I wrote you, or I talked about this recently, the first thing we thought was that somebody pranked us.
That's right.
We thought that.
Mm,
And because there were no voices or footsteps or anything that we heard
yeah,
anyway. We were so scared that, there might have been, but there was definitely no language
sure.
or sounds. But
So
that's interesting.
So did you have any feeling? So what were you feeling at the time? Did you feel like you were spooked or you were in fear or you
Hmm.
felt safe or is there any type of how were you feeling?
Well, I think we were all pretty spooked.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the Adirondacks, and
Sure.
so, camping and
Yeah.
hearing noises like loons and,
Yeah.
all sorts of things. And even when I took winter mountaineering, we used to have to go out and camp in the middle of January out in the middle of the woods and make our
Mm-hmm.
own fire. And, so I'm not, I kind of know and feel comfortable, and we all did,
Right.
and in the woods. And so this really spooked us. But
Yeah.
I think we basically thought that it was probably friends of ours, but no one was camping around us. We were there by ourselves.
Right.
And but being pranked was definitely something we initially thought.
Yeah. So because sometimes there's folks that have come had an encounter, maybe they didn't see it, they call that a class B. But
Yes, right.
maybe sometimes they hear things in their head like they say that maybe Bigfoot has something called mind speak
Mm-hmm.
where you have a feeling of something where maybe you were told something but you're just not
Mm-hmm.
really aware of it. There's also a feeling of dread. I've heard
Mm-hmm.
that you can have feelings from a electromagnetic perspective,
Yes,
where
right.
it may tense up your muscles or do some other things to you, make you not feel right,
Yeah,
um, like a headache, things like that.
yeah.
So none of that.
None of that, as I
Okay.
recall,
Yeah.
though that is interesting what you're talking about because my husband,
Hmm.
it didn't, I mean, the
Was he there?
supernatural, no, he passed away a couple of years ago from
Oh,
stage 4 cancer.
I'm
So,
so
but
sorry.
he was, thank you. We were up here on New Year's Eve here in New Mexico, which is
Hmm.
about 7,500 feet up in elevation.
Mm,
And he did not believe in anything,
right.
different. That was, and I'm the one always watching, ghost hunters and,
Sure.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. But so it was New Year's Eve, and he had already gone to bed.
Hmm.
And the side of our house, which we bought about 6 months earlier, something shook it. I mean, there was no way that it wasn't an earthquake. It came from one point at the end of the house
Yeah.
where the master bedroom was. And
Really?
he bolted right up out of bed and said, "What the heck was that?"
Yeah.
And I, of course, I go running outside,
Hmm.
and it was snowing. Monitor light was on, and there was nothing there. And of course, by morning, I couldn't see any footprints or anything. And he was convinced, even though our home is in the middle of a forest, um, that an elk had come and rubbed up and down the side of the side of the house. And I said, "Yeah, with all the trees around, the elk is rubbing up and down on outside of our house."
Yeah.
But anyway, that was the first event up here.
Hmm.
And and there were a series of events through the 5 years.
Yeah.
And finally, that's why I'm wearing the BFRO hat and in the
Yeah.
picture, because they took it, they sent people out. They took it very seriously.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. They do a really great job, documenting any Bigfoot activity at all. I love their website. A lot of great
Yes.
information in there. They're definitely good people.
And the thing was what you were talking about, the electromagnetic
Yeah.
situation. A couple of years later, we were up here and that was the weekend that BFRO came out.
Hmm.
And Larry really had a tough time mentally that weekend. And it wasn't, it was different. He was so different. And I've always felt that there was something being thrown around that weekend.
Really?
And also I've heard that they can that lions and tigers, when they are hunting, they're able to throw off some sort of pheromone
Hmm.
that can help freeze prey.
Sure.
And
Mm.
had the name of it at one point in time, but he had that happen that weekend when they were here. And I had it happen once where you're just frozen. You
Sure.
can't move. And
Yeah.
you're walking, and all of a sudden it just hits you.
Mm.
So very interesting that you mentioned all that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something new I've been learning about and hearing more and more about, which is super interesting, right? Because
Yes, it is.
we're not sure what that is, but I'd like to learn more about it. So with the going when last time going back to the Adirondacks and the camping,
Oh, yes,
um,
yes, yes.
any evidence? Did you see any prints? Was there anything at all?
No, if that happened today, I would know to look for prints or
Right.
scat or something.
Sure.
But we were, just got up in the morning, packed, and went on our way.
Mm,
And if anybody noticed a print, I've lost touch with those people over time. I still have a lot of friends in Lake Placid
sure.
and in Saranac Lake, but those folks lost touch a long time ago.
So,
It'd be
so
interesting, though.
so you all stayed in the tent. So the tent gets shaken in this manner, in
Yes,
a very,
yes,
very aggressive manner. You're
yes,
you're you're literally shaken up and scared, right?
yes, very
And
much
and
so.
then you just stay in your tent and go to sleep.
I don't, I don't know if we went
What
to
did you do?
sleep. We may have had some beers.
Yeah, right. I'm sure. Yeah. That's great. Okay, good, good. Well, I don't
Yeah,
think I would go
I
outside and take a look either. I'd probably just sit there and say my prayers and say, if this bear eats me, I'm done, right? Uh,
that's right. That's right.
you
That's right.
know,
I think that
today's
was
the last
really,
day.
that's it. We're going to Bearland.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it just didn't make sense.
Right.
The
No,
whole thing didn't make
no, it
sense.
doesn't make any sense at all.
No. Mm-mm.
Something caused that though, and you didn't
Right.
hear anything run away, or you didn't hear anything climbing or breaking trees or anything like that, right?
No, and if I did,
Yeah.
it's been wiped out by memory.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to be hypnotized probably to remember it, but I don't know. Maybe it'll come back to me. But I
Yeah.
think we were all just so spooked
Yeah,
that
sure.
we just didn't understand what happened. We were
Yeah,
like 20 at the time.
sure.
And 21 if we were drinking beer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. In New York State.
But here we were, the first incident here in New
Yeah.
Mexico was the shaking
Yeah.
and of the house. So that's when I started to really remember what had happened and thinking, is that what happened? Is that what happened to uh, back then? And very possibly, I believe it to be true.
Right.
My own experience, I believe it to be true for myself,
Yeah.
what I experienced.
Of course, of course. Yeah. Everybody has their own experiences. And just like
Yes,
you said at the beginning, I'm never going to question anybody's truth. Your truth is your truth, so
right.
it is what it is. And I'd like to learn about your truth. That's all. Um,
Oh, thank
so
you.
so you had multiple experiences. So back at the house, something shook the
Yeah.
house. So
Oh, yeah.
something is messing with you, Jenny. Uh,
Yes.
shaking you around. And then we felt something come over us as you were out in the environment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I and the thing that after the 5 years, because I have lupus, so we were looking for a place to be outside of the heat of Phoenix
Oh, yes,
for me in the
please.
summer because the heat's very bad for lupus. And so we ended up here in Rama, which is a wonderful place. I love it so much. And I would be up here by myself and my husband would come up on the weekends because he had a business to run in Phoenix. So I'd always be out walking because I could walk here because it'd be 72 here and 102 in Phoenix.
Right.
So a lot of these experiences happened when just I was here,
Mm,
except the two times Larry had the shaking and then
right.
the mental situation. And he
Interesting.
had a headache that weekend and he didn't get headaches
Mm-hmm.
at that point in time. And any the thing that pushed me over the edge kind of to
Mm,
call somebody was a scream. There
okay.
was a scream outside our house at 5 o'clock in the morning. I had all my dogs froze. I froze. And it's, I know what elk bugling sounds like. I know what a fox in heat sounds like.
Sure.
I know what a lot of forest sound like.
Yep.
And this was like somebody parked a speaker right outside the house and just blasted a scream.
Wow.
And so when I go out, Raymond's a very small town. It's a Mormon pioneer town, and it's about 400 people within Rama itself. So when I go into town, I'd make a joke. I'd say, somebody'd say, how are you? And I'd say, oh, fine, except that Bigfoot guy. And
Mm,
all of a sudden, people started talking to me,
Yeah.
saying,
Great.
I I had this happen. I
Mm.
and you know,
Yeah.
and I decided after a while to have the Facebook group and
Hmm.
realized it just covers it. It doesn't know politics, it doesn't know race, it doesn't know age, it
Yeah, that's
doesn't know
right.
gender, religion, anything. You can
Right.
be rich and have that experience, you can be poor and have that experience.
Exactly.
And it's global. It's not just one localized area, you know?
Right. Right. So, you're absolutely right, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I know that's not really the easiest thing to do, especially when you have when you're feeling physically ill.
Yeah.
Um, and so you said you had to contact somebody. So let me just rephrase. Let me paraphrase a little bit about what you told me.
Okay.
So you were at your house.
Yeah.
Your husband wasn't feeling well.
Right.
Had a headache. Never has a headache, right?
Right.
That's me too, just so you know. I never,
Oh, interesting.
I never ever get headaches, just once in a very blue moon. But and I never feel unwell. It's just I don't know why, but I don't.
Good for
Um,
you. That's
I
awesome.
know, yeah. Well, we'll see how that goes, right? I think that this year might be the first year I have some allergies. We'll see. Um,
Yeah, I
so,
hear that.
so, so you guys are both not feeling well. Is this the same time that the house was shaken or no?
No, this
Is this
was about
separate?
5 years later,
Yeah.
and events would happen during the summer.
Sure.
When I'd first come up, there'd be knocking
Mm.
on the side of the house, which
Um,
would be about, I don't know, 50 feet up.
sure.
And nothing, no ledge or anything. You know, ravens are notorious pranksters too.
Yes, they are.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but there was no place to hang from. There's no place to put your talons and, play a
Oof.
joke on you or anything. And but it was the fifth summer, it was the scream.
Yeah.
So I called my sister who lives
Yeah.
in Albany,
Okay.
and she said, you should call BFRO
Mm.
because it's important. It's
Sure.
research.
Yeah.
So I did, and by golly, they took it very seriously. So hats on to them because, up here you can talk about it, but my grandson, every time I get going on it, he goes, off topic, Grandma, and he starts talking about something else.
Yeah.
So not everybody, unless you have an event in your life,
Right.
it's just foreign to them. So it's wonderful social media to be able to talk with you, to be able
Hmm.
Rocky Mountain Sasquatch, and to talk to people up here and not be laughed at.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, so 50 foot. So you gave me the chills when you were explaining all this with the 50 foot
Oh
up,
wow. Mm-hmm.
knocks, and then you're
Mm-hmm.
telling us about, not feeling well,
Mm-hmm.
and the scream. So those
Mm-hmm.
are all indications of there's something going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's telling me Bigfoot. But
Mm-hmm.
I've been hearing a lot of, I don't know if you listen to other things and been learning more about more cryptid things and
Oh yeah.
Dog Man and
Oh yeah.
if you're into the UFO piece, there's what you're saying, there's a lot of connections that could be a lot of possibilities.
Yes, I know there are people, like Sedona. There's actually Pine Hill, Rama, Navajo, which is about 6 miles away, has a general store and a gas station,
Hmm.
urgent care. So we go up there a lot.
Yeah.
Um, the so the they say that they have been protecting a family of Sasquatch for many years. And
Really?
they have really kind of gotten a balance. They offer them sheep to kind of keep a balance with them, and that their canyons, up at Pine Hill, way out there where
Sure.
they live. And recently, I have two friends that are on the group. One has an old map, oh, an old Navajo Dene map that
Hmm.
actually has um, Bigfoot forest written on it in an area that is
Really?
apparently not that far from where I live. But
Wow.
now apparently it went to the Zuni Pueblo people at some point in time.
Hmm.
So I've been trying to I have a friend, one of the two people who's offered to, he's Navajo, offered to take me and the other administrator, Dreamland Ranch, out there at some point in time. And I'd really like to go in October because I found they would migrate more in October. Um, that's when sometimes more of the activity would occur.
Mm.
And I've talked with other people on other Sasquatch uh, Facebook groups, and that seems to be something they encounter too, like in North Carolina, Tennessee. They've noticed that as well. So I think the migratory aspect was very interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with somebody about that because we were talking about the Adirondacks and would they
Yes.
would they migrate in the winter, and be like,
Right.
snowbirds or something, go down to Florida for,
Yes.
you know, that
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's a possibility, but so this is the second time I've heard of migration. So whereabouts do you think they would be migrating from where to where?
I think here it's more up along the west coast to
Sure.
the state of Washington, the Northwest, and up in
Oh,
Canada,
okay. Right.
and down here. But I see,
So following
I
the
th
mountain range all the way up.
yes, and I think also tunnels. I think because they're ancient, and I think because they've been here for many generations,
Mm-hmm.
that they know tunnels and caves
Caves, yeah.
very well. And so they know how to remain hidden.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I believe that.
I have a theory. Not a lot of people agree with my theory. My theory, and until proven wrong, will continue to be my theory unless I gather enough evidence to go in another direction. Right now, my theory is Bigfoot are Neanderthal, and
Yeah.
they're just a evolutionary um, down the evolutionary line of Neanderthal. Neanderthal disappeared 450,000 years or 250,000 years ago. They just disappeared off the map.
Right,
Soon as more Homo sapien type people like ourselves came about, they they were both around at the same time, but then Neanderthals just disappeared. So there's no
right,
reason or explanation in history. We know that they were there, and then we know that they were gone. So
right.
I've been looking into this because I'm intrigued. I'm like, come on, maybe, right? So maybe Bigfoot are just Neanderthal, right? So
Yeah,
Neanderthal, they were basically cave dwell. They lived in caves. They hid in caves, and not just caves as in a hole in the wall that you walk into. I mean a crevice that you can barely pull yourself through, um, and drag yourself into the middle of a mountain, and then they had a whole uh living area in there,
right.
which is pretty amazing to think about. And then
Yeah.
one thing, something I just discovered, because a couple times I've been said, somebody's asked me, where's the bones? Where's the
That
remains? Where are the remains?
that's a
Right?
common thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I learned, so I've been researching. So I'm like, okay, ask me a question. I'm gonna go look up and see what I can find. So what I found out about the Neanderthal, so I'll stick to my theory, right? We can have some people not believe what I'm saying, and that's fine. Um, is so Neanderthal, they did find some bones. They don't have many. They were found in caves, and there were only fragments of bones. They never found like full skeletons or anything. They found pieces of skull or pieces of femur
Yeah.
bone that had been busted in half, things like that. And then
Hmm.
from studying those bones, what they think they know is that they consumed themselves. So not as in they were killing themselves
Interesting.
to eat themselves, but they would take in the energy of the elder. So as the elder passed away, they would become part of that elder by consuming that
Oh,
elder. So they can confirm that yes, those are teeth mark on the bones, as in they were gnawing, the tendons and the meat
yeah,
off of the bone and stuff. And they said they probably just consumed all the rest of the bones. That's why there's only fragments left of pieces they didn't eat. So I was like, wow, well, that explains a lot.
that is so
If
interesting.
if there's a connection, I think it explains a lot. That's just me thinking out loud. I don't want to get beat up for this, but
No, 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 no. I
part of
I think that's really interesting. I
yeah.
like that very much. And it's about, surviving.
Hmm.
It's about surviving. And
Yeah.
and you're right. I mean, a lot of people say I spent my life hiking up in the Adirondacks and
Hmm.
here now, and I've never come across, well, sometimes, but very rarely come across any bones, any
Right.
uh, you know,
Remains of
anything, a bobcat,
yeah.
a lynx, anything.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I just don't find that unless somebody has
Hmm.
shot it or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not that odd to me to when people say, well, I say to them, when was the last time you came across a bunch of deer bones,
Yeah.
on your hike, your
Right.
daily hike,
Yeah.
right?
Never. And think of, I mean, I watch some crime shows once in a while,
Oh, yeah, sure, we
and
all do.
yeah, we all like to indulge in that kind of stuff. Well, but they never find the whole body for the most part, unless it's wrapped up in a trash bag or something, right? But
Right,
if there's a hole dug or a body is left on the side of the road or in the woods, or if the hole's dug and they're put in the hole without being wrapped in something or whatever, usually they just find a few bones
right.
where the remains of the body used to be, because animals and everything, it just becomes part of the ecosystem.
Absolutely. I mean, we have at night, a lot of people out here, we don't go walking at night. Once
Yeah.
nightfall happens, there are coyotes everywhere.
Oh,
And,
but
and they're all around the house and they're, doing their thing and yipping and yapping and talking to one another. So that's how they survive. And the ravens too, So um, that just is nature taking care of itself.
absolutely. So interesting.
Yeah.
It's just a wormhole of information. The more you read it, you come up with something, you say, "Well, that's interesting. Let me look into that." And then you're going someplace left, someplace right,
The
and
rabbit hole.
that's right. Yeah. But it's fun. I'll tell you that. And it's interesting. And history always plays a role. That's why I'm so interested. And you brought up the Navajo and the natives
Yes.
that have that connection. I'm so interested into that because I think that there's something there, and I
Yes.
definitely want to learn more about that. I'm going to do some book work research. But if I could
Cool.
get somebody to talk to, that would be awesome too,
I will see what I can do.
Yeah, if you
And
could.
I just want to mention this area right here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of the ley lines.
No.
They're lines that go, horizontally and vertically around the globe,
Mm-hmm.
where sacred things like Stonehenge and Easter Island, they all intersect in these ley lines.
How do you
And
how do
we're
you spell lay? How do you spell that?
Ley.
Ley. Okay.
And it's a
Lines.
man who's British,
Gotcha.
who came up with this and the drawings and everything. And I'm about 10 miles from a ley line that
Hmm.
goes through El Morro National Monument. And the thing is that this whole area was once inhabited by Anasazi,
Wow.
and the El Morro, uh it's just an amazing place. But and there are Pueblo ruins up above. But in mid-March, a young Navajo kid got a picture. He said he saw two Bigfoot up on top of the cliff,
Mm.
uh, and got out of his car and was able to capture one in a photo.
Mm.
And somebody shared that with me, and I reached out to Rocky Mountain Sasquatch. This is before I knew about you,
Yeah.
and shared it with them, and they thought it was very compelling evidence.
Right.
And I gave him the young man's name, but it was in mid-March when, I mean, we had so much snow, so much ice. There
Mm.
was no way anybody was up there, and you can tell it's just a figure, even though it was taken with a cell phone, and at a distance. So, but somebody, my neighbor who's Dana, Patrick, said to me, but that's Anasazi was there, the Anasazi.
Hmm.
And I can show you where Anasazi ruins, they're all like in a line going up through Navajo Nation. And so I thought, well, uh, anything is, I mean,
Yeah.
take me, I'd love to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go check it out.
Yeah,
Let's go look around.
absolutely.
I
Well,
love it.
so what was your experience?
Yeah. Yeah. So I just recently had an experience, which is, it's a little off the wall, but, um, so I've been doing some investigative work. So I'm really interested in just learning more, and getting to understand what's going on. And then, kind of try to look at it in a different way than other folks are looking at it. Like I'm looking
Hmm.
at, like the lumber industry keeps coming up. I made a list this weekend.
Yes.
I Googled every
Yes.
lumber company in the Adirondacks. I have them all now.
Oh,
So
interesting.
they're in trouble. I'm coming.
Good.
So yeah, yeah. So more to come. So, but I've come up with a lot of ways to look at this in a different way, to get some people that are in the woods to tell us what do they know. You got to know
Yeah.
something. Share what you do know, and stop keeping secrets, right?
Yeah.
So that's my plan. That's how I come into this. But I had this gentleman reach out to me. His name is Bud, and he's telling me about his experiences that he keeps having in the same place. He goes to Wells, New York. That's in the southern Adirondack. Well, a little bit. It's kind of central southern Adirondacks, I guess.
Okay. Near Whitehall or not
Uh,
that close to Whitehall?
yeah, it's probably 2 hours west of Whitehall.
Okay. Okay.
Speculator, you know where that is?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. By Sacandaga and all that kind of stuff over
Oh,
there.
okay. I know where
Yeah,
that is.
yeah, yeah, down there. Well, over there. I thought it was
Hmm.
down, but it's really over because I'm in Fort Ann, so I'm over by Lake
Okay.
George.
Right.
Um, and if I just went west straight, I end up right where Wells is. Um, but for some reason I always think it's south, but it's not. But anyway, so he's contacted me multiple times. He's telling me about this place, and then he starts sending me evidence, right? So he's taking pictures. He has sound bites from when he's been camping, and he's been camping in the same place for years and years and years and years. And it's strange things have been
Hmm.
happening. And so I'm like, all right, well, what do you want to do? And he's like, well, let's go check it out. I'm like, okay. Let's go check it
Cool.
out. This sounds
Yeah.
good. So up there isn't no like public there's no like a campground. You go, you check in and you go
Mm.
to, it's literally two sites that are just on this long road of woods. Um and they're just first come first serve sites. So I don't know if it's on state land, so they must be state, okayed by the state,
Yeah.
but you don't need a reservation. You need to do nothing. You just go there. If nobody's there, you can have the site as long as you want.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's where he likes to go camp because he likes that area. So we go up there, and I'm like, all right, well, I've got all my equipment. All right, well, tell me the story. Let's go over here. Let's go to the campsite. Tell me about the story, what happened over here at the campsite. And so we go check that out. We're going down the road. And then he's like, well, I'm getting the chills just thinking about it right now. So we leave the campsite. He tells me his story, what happened at the campsite, about the sounds he's heard in the woods, the things he's had on recording.
Hmm.
He's like had some pretty no shaking of the tent, but he's had a lot of noise, like noises, and something rustling around right there at his red wet
Hmm.
site. And it's not something small, and you can hear it in the audio clips. So different types of knocking, kind of like you described, which is interesting.
Hmm.
So I'm like, all right, well, let's go. Let's keep looking. So we get in the car and we're driving up this long dirt road, and there's a tree down blocking the road, which is a sign of Bigfoot don't want you going that way.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so we get out of the car, we move the tree. We're like, all right, we got to keep going, you know. So now it's getting a little weird. We get further out, and we check out the second campsite. We made it up to the second one. And there's a lot of signs like the trees that are in the broken down into the X formation, piles of trees. One tree that had this big, huge, crazy twist in it, like, but it was a live tree, but broken and twisted. It made no sense. There's no
Oh
way
yeah,
nothing
right.
else could have done that. I tell you that there was no trees, no nothing that did that to that tree. Um, and then I'm standing there off in the distance, I felt like I heard a couple knocks. And I was like,
Yeah,
I think I just heard a couple knocks. And he's like, oh, you might have, I don't know, And then I'm like, I think I just heard it again. So we're looking around for prints to see if there's anything. We're going down by the streams. We're checking everything out, see if there's any evidence other than the tree formations and the twist and all that, right? So then
right.
we turn around and say, okay, well, that's a lot. That's a lot of evidence. I feel pretty good that there's something going on around here. I've heard some noises I'm not sure about. I've seen some formation of tree. I've seen some twists in trees. I'm getting a little weirded out here that something's not right,
Yeah,
So
right.
let's get
We
off of
know.
this long weird road and head back. So we're driving back. We get out back in the cars. We're just going to drive back, and none of this is scripted. I just met this man for the first time. I meet him at the firehouse. He's like, I'm in a Subaru. I'm like, me too. What color is yours? You know?
Great.
Yeah. And then we're driving around in the middle of the woods. So then we come back and we're on our way back down, and he goes, hey, look at that tree formation. And he pulls a car over. So we get off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Um, So we get out, we pull over the car, we get out of the car, we go look at this tree formation, and there's like 8 or 9 trees that are like all like bunched up in this pile, and
Oh,
but not really in a pile. We did make a
yeah.
video. There is a video of it on YouTube. Um, and I'm like, what the heck is this? This doesn't look right. And he's like, no way. There's no way that this is natural. This is a live tree. There's no way this could be piled up in this manner. And we're looking at it going, nah, that's definitely not. So I'm like, all right, I'm taking a video of him. He's over there shaking the trees to see if they'll fall or something. And then we hear two very distinct loud knocks, like
Oh, wow.
wood on wood. I'm shaking like I got the
Oh
chills
my
right now.
God.
Just
I got
like
chills too.
it was like 20 feet away from. It was so close. Like I was completely like frozen for a minute. I was like,
Wow.
oh my God. And then he's like, did you hear that? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I'm not sure what that was. I'm like, I'm not sure either, but something's telling me we need to leave, you know,
Wow.
that we shouldn't be here. So we left. And that was my experience. I didn't see anything.
But
Um,
you knew, see, you knew, right?
I
I
yeah, I
mean,
yeah, I
yeah, it just doesn't leave you.
yeah. So yeah, so we went back, we talked, we did an interview. We talked about the incident we just had and all that. And then a few days later he reached out to me and said, hey, so why did you say that hey, something told me we have to leave? And I was like, because that's how I felt. He's like, yeah, but did something tell you you need to leave? He said, because I felt exactly the same. It wasn't like I was
Wow.
scared or anything. I wasn't scared for my
Right.
life. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't spooked. I just felt like something told me I need to leave. I said, me too. He said, well,
Right.
well, that's a sign of Bigfoot. I was like, I think so. you know,
That
uh,
is so cool.
yeah, it freaked us out. It freaked me out because I've never
Yeah.
experienced anything before. I'm just looking to see if, what's going on. How do we bring light to this? Where can I find proof? That kind of stuff. So,
Yes.
and I happen to have an experience which was super cool. But yeah, it freaked me out. So I look at the woods differently now.
Yes. I mean, I think about my grandson. The first time I brought him up here and we stayed, this is a dark sky area.
Ah,
There's no, and we're an hour and 15 minutes from Gallup in the first stoplight.
yeah,
So these are ranch lands, it's very
right.
big and there are no lights. So my grandson, he was like, Grandma, I'm so scared. The woods are gonna get me.
Oh boy.
But I think that as that's one of the wonderful mysteries about the
Hmm.
forest I mean, trees are living things. They communicate. They are roots. They create communities. They help each other. You know, that's a
Hmm.
scientific fact. I mean, if one is
Yeah.
dying, they try and help, you
The
know, or
flora. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yes,
So they have an essence, I believe, all in unto themselves.
they do.
And and I think that, you know, the logging situation is something, I mean, it upsets a lot of people, but it also upsets a lot of animals,
Yeah.
including, I mean, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And I think also, you know, we're, you know, if they're Neanderthals and we're related, there's something we recognize about them when we have an experience.
Sure.
It's a lot different than, you know, a mountain lion running across the road out here. You know, I mean, that's
That's
a
right.
beautiful
Yeah.
thing, an
Yeah.
amazing thing, but it's something unique to a humanoid, you know, that I think it goes off inside of us. This is our kin,
Yeah.
you know, we're
Yeah.
related.
And I love that, Jenny. And that's kind of what you said to me when you first reached out to me. I don't know if you remember, you
Yeah.
were like, yeah, I just want to make sure people know that they're not here to harm us.
No,
Um,
they're not.
and that really stuck out to me. That's why I was like, wow, that in the beginning of our conversation today, you said they want to know where your heart is. And that's
Yes.
powerful because I think you're right. And that kind of ties into the prankster piece and all that. And we've never really seen anybody really harmed from a Bigfoot. The stories you hear of harm are based on somebody harmed them, right? So they pulled a
Yes.
gun, they shot one, something happened, and then they came back for revenge, something like that. But
Right.
yeah,
Just as we would
yeah,
probably, you know, if
yeah,
somebody wanted
absolutely.
to harm my grandson, you know,
Yeah,
I'd be very upset, you know, and want to get, you know, like you need to be in trouble for this, bud, you know,
yeah.
whatever.
Oh,
But
oh, Jenny, here's an update for you. So on my
okay.
experience, I don't mean to cut you off. I just
No, no,
remembered
no,
because I
no.
was I was
Cool.
chatting with Bud earlier today because I came across another video with the same type of tree formation that we came across where there was a sighting. Um, and he reminded me he went back a week later and casted some prints. He did find a couple of prints.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's pretty cool. But at the
Yes.
same time, that whole structure was done. Somebody tore it down. So
Okay.
that makes no, I don't know if, and he said there wasn't no like human foot boot prints and stuff, like people over there moving all these logs and trees around. So
Right.
he found two prints and the structure was now disassembled. So I was like, that makes, he sent me pictures and everything. It makes no sense. There's no way. There's,
Right.
there's no way. There's no way. You would have had to bring machinery in there to move those trees and pull them apart.
Right.
There's no way
And
they
there's no way.
right.
It's like the upside down trees in the Northwest.
Yes, I just started learning about that. Very interesting.
Yes. I mean, even, you know, Hulk Hogan, somebody who's really,
Yeah.
you know, strong.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't pull a tree in the Northwest up by its roots and turn it upside down.
Right.
And these areas, like you were saying, you can't get machinery in there to do
No.
it. And
No.
they've been there for generations anyway, long before machinery was available to do something like that, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
why? Why? You know,
Hmm.
I think it's you know, a time honored question. Why? But the BFRO people, when they came out here, they had interviewed, they were telling us about some of the interviews that they'd done over in the Sandia Mountains. And there was a lady who had moved from California to New Mexico up in the mountains, and one ran across her in front of her, her car across the road up in the mountains, and
Mm,
she turned around and sold her house and went back to California.
really?
And
Wow.
also the hunters, you know, people that have hunted their whole lives and they go out and have an experience and they just never go hunting again.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean, that has to be so traumatic.
Yeah.
You know,
It is. It is. And I've heard the opposite too. I've heard hunters that, yeah, they keep go hunting. They keep on hunting
yeah,
too. So, I mean, it's just
right.
so interesting, but it affects everybody in a different way.
Yes, it
Um,
does.
did yours change you at all?
Oh yeah. I used to in the beginning uh always make sure I would go home at the end of August and come back at the end of September for the whole month of October from
Mm,
Arizona. Bring all my dogs back. And it was before my husband got really sick. He was, still active and
yeah.
walking and things like that. So, but I tell him, I say, Larry, I got to go. It's fall. And that's when the activity is going to ramp up. And usually within, I get usually in the early evening,
Mm-hmm.
before sundown, get everybody in the house, me and the dogs. And then the next day, I'd get the knocks. It
Mm,
was like the way of saying, hi, we're here, we're still here,
right.
we're we're knocking to let you know. And
Yeah.
and I would just be reading a book or something and just look out the door and say, good to know you're here. And I'd make cornbread and take it out.
Thanks for letting me know you're out there.
Yeah. Apples, you want some apples? Of course, I don't know the coyotes or the elk got
Yeah.
the apples too, but um and then when Larry passed walked on a couple of years ago, I wanted to be here. I just feel, I don't know, it's something very unique, the energy here.
Mm-hmm.
And of
Yeah.
course and I've heard that they follow elk, and
Oh,
we have an abundance of elk here. Um, and also wolves. A lot of times and that makes sense because
sure.
like ravens follow, stay around where wolves are too, because in the wild, wolves will eat something and then they get what's left,
Right.
so
Right.
the scavengers. So it makes sense to me that but I'm anxious to go visit the Bigfoot forest in
Mm-hmm.
the fall, and just spend the day there. And I always offer something. I always offer cedar. I always say prayers. I do
Mm,
Navajo prayers, and I do prayers, St. Patrick's breastplate. I do Mormon prayers. I want the land to know that I love it. I would never do anything to hurt it.
great.
And but I noticed the activity has calmed down a lot in the last couple of years. And I think it's because during the pandemic, a lot of people came out of the cities, and this area got, even though it's very unpopulated, it's very off the grid, but still a lot more people here now than used to be.
Yeah.
So I think they feel that, and they move accordingly when more people are moving in.
Yeah. I didn't make that connection, but you're absolutely right because everybody went camping. Yeah. Everybody,
Yes, that's
everybody did
right.
stuff outside. Right.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
We've got people from Florida, from Cuba, from all
Right. Yeah.
over the world up here. But it is it's just a really special and unique place. And it is so remote that I mean, when we first bought the house, we were at a flea market in Gallup and talking to a guy, my husband and I, and he said, "So where are you folks from?" And then we said, "Rama, out by Pine Hill." And he said, "Oh my God." He said, "People go out there to get lost. They're never seen again." And I
What?
said, and Larry and I were like, "What?"
Yeah.
No, we didn't get that at all. But I think back in the day, it was that remote and still very off the gridish. And, that's good.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Wow. Well, that's a lot. I mean, we talked about a lot, Jenny. This is awesome. I
Yes,
love
we
it.
did.
Yeah.
And, I was thinking of coming back to visit in the next year. My
Yeah.
friends, well, they used to own the Lake Placid Jewelry in
Hmm.
Lake Placid, Mike and Eileen Beglin. And we were married at their house in Lake Placid.
Oh,
So,
nice.
and I haven't been back in a while, and I've been thinking this year should be the year. So we'll definitely stay in touch with our
Yeah.
groups and everything. And I'll send you information on Norman and also another guy, Richard Begay. And we'll maybe we can do an investigation. Be cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Keep in touch, of course.
Yes,
I would
absolutely.
love nothing more. Is there anything you'd like to end? Did you want to tell anybody about your group? Can anybody join that group or
It's private
private
because
group? Okay.
yeah, but anybody can ask to join,
Mm-hmm.
and it is the RAMA, RAMAHNM for New Mexico Bigfoot group.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I keep it private because there are some people that have really had, I call it Bigfoot PTSD. I
Yes.
mean, they can hardly even talk about it.
Sure.
So I've always wanted it to be a safe place for
Yeah.
people
Great.
to know that they're understood, that it, I think when we share stuff on the group that it helps them,
Great.
that they're not crazy, and they may have been called that at some point in their lives. So
Yep. Yep.
um, I think it helps. And your group is Adirondack Bigfoot,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's so awesome.
Yeah, we love it. Adirondack Bigfoot. Trying to keep things in the Adirondacks is hard because there's so much going on out there.
Yeah.
But we're definitely staying local and getting out in the Adirondacks as much as we can. So that's awesome.
Well, I look forward to watching the recent videos you did on your YouTube. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, check it
Yeah.
out. Check it out. You got to
Oh,
watch yours tomorrow, premiere tomorrow.
okay. Hey,
Uh,
thanks, John. I
yeah.
really appreciate your
That,
inviting me, and look forward to staying in touch and
yeah.
conversing more about the guy.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Jenny. I appreciate your time. Be
You
safe
bet.
out there.
You too, as
Thank you.
well. Ciao.
All right, bye.